This episode is brought to you by HASA. Liquid is clearly better. Liquid chlorine is the highest purity, works immediately, has no added cyanuric acid or calcium, and it will leave your pool safe, clean, and clear. And by the Bottom Feeder professional grade battery powered vacuum system. It sucks to clean pools, so cleaning pools sucks less. Get $100 off with code DVB100.
This episode is brought to you by Skimmer, the #1 pool service software in North America. With Skimmer, you can streamline your schedule, grow your revenue, and keep your customers coming back with 5-star service. Whether you're a one-person operation or an established team, Skimmer is your partner in success. Visit getskimmer.com/poolguy to try Skimmer for free for 30 days.
The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show.
Hi, welcome to the Pool Guy Podcast Show. This is part 2 of a 2-part series with the owner of the Bottom Feeder, and we're going to talk about the new shrimp cleaner, which is a smaller version of the Bottom Feeder that's coming on the market very shortly, and I think this is going to be a product that a lot of pool pros and homeowners have been waiting for. We're going to also continue our discussion on the updated Bottom Feeder. We'll talk about product safety, the new handle to make it easier to carry back, what the thrust ring actually is inside the cleaner, when you should use it, charging the cleaner in your truck. This is a great feature, and you have the ability to charge it while you're driving, and also the bags themselves that go on to the Bottom Feeder and how the bags are going to also fit on the new shrimp model as well. You're going to really enjoy this podcast, and if you haven't tuned into part 1, you can find that also on my YouTube channel or by subscribing to my podcast. Are you a pool service pro looking to take your business to the next level? Join the Pool Guy Coaching Program. Get expert advice, business tips, exclusive content, and get direct support. From me, I'm a 35-year veteran in the industry. Whether you're starting out or scaling up, I've got the tools to help you succeed. Learn more at swimmingpoollearning.com. You're working on another product, and I believe you're going to name it the shrimp. Is that correct?
Because the shrimp is a bottom feeder, and it's smaller. Yeah, so we're working on it. Basically, instead of the 18-inch width head, it's a 12-inch. It actually runs off the same motor. So there's the weights. It's a little smaller, but it's just a lot more nimble to get around. It actually works off of, so it's a 3/4 size battery. It looks the same, but it's a little shorter, which actually extends the runtime to about 2.5 hours on that. So it's got a lot of pluses. A lot of guys say, no, it's still plenty of power. The guys that have beta testing and stuff, and they really like it. Especially for the guys that have, like you suggest, have pool cleaners in all your pools, and you just need it for steps and spas. And if you have a fountain out front, it works well for all that kind of stuff. It's just a matter of trying to get the, because it's, we manufacture everything in a shop here. We assemble, like it's all aluminum parts and all that stuff is finished. So we can't just mass produce plastic stuff. It makes it, it's hard to get the price point down, but I'm looking for ways that I can try and get it, so it's noticeably cheaper than a bottom feeder. It's the good thing, and I'm sure it'll end up eating into some bottom feeder sales and stuff, but but at least I'm getting the sale instead of the $200 little plastic thing. And then if the batteries, those are already thoroughly tested and stuff, for safety and durability and stuff. So as long as we have the motors issue doesn't come up again, they do last for years. It's just the poor guys that go through the lemon phases. When you happen to have bought one during when we get the bad stuff in, it's just and then I'll hear the little bit of hate on the internet, and it's like and I should be more active in saying sorry, and this is what we're working on. But I've got a lot of plates spinning in my life, so I get sucked too deep into that rabbit hole. But
yeah, so the shrimp would probably be good for homeowners as well that are probably using those coquito things that explode after a year.
Yeah, that's good. We went down that road, the exploding battery road, but it's like, no, it's just not so we sold all those are going to Al Qaeda and places like that. So we found a market, but it was a whole different the pipe bomb market is different, it turns out, than the homeowners market. So are we allowed to say that at the podcast, or is that?
I think so, because APR had a bunch of their robots explode.
Yeah, that is the problem. That's why because we used to have a 2.5 hour runtime on our batteries, and then but when we decided to get them made in America with Canadian made boards and stuff, they had designed it so poorly that they were that if something went wrong, it would just run away, and it was a nightmare. And I just the last thing I ever want is one of my customers getting hurt or something from one of my products. So we went over the top on the safety side. I spent just on safety testing was just $70,000. Just on the battery itself. So we've come up with a safe battery. It just doesn't run as long as we would like as pool guys. So buy two, you get $200 off.
And the Pool Guy Podcast Show has teamed up with UPA to bring you affordable, reliable liability insurance starting at just $64 a month. Get up to $2 million in coverage, and the members of my coaching group get an even lower rate. Protect your business and your peace of mind. Sign up with UPA today by clicking the link in the podcast description. If you get a bottom feeder, it's going to work. All the components are waterproof, water sealed. It's not like if you get something wet, it's not going to work. There's products out there that fit that category. And I think, with all the added things that you're coming out with, the 2 battery pack, bottom feeder, the ability to plug it in, these are all going to satisfy every single category of pool pro out there. And what I like about the bottom feeder, I hear this a lot from the guys in my group, is that they can give the bottom feeder to their employee and not worry about it. I mean, it's like, because employees, they probably don't take as good care of things as we do ourselves. And I've heard stories of them throwing it in the back of the truck, dropping him.
Yeah.
So it is a machine that's great for those guys and employees that if your service agreement says they have to vacuum every pool, you're not going to have a lot of pushback from a guy with a bottom feeder versus a Riptide or a Hammerhead who's going to drag it back there and vacuum every pool. So that's the plus side of the bottom feeder.
Yeah, and that's the feedback I get from a lot of guys that have, the companies with 12 plus techs, is that the phone calls stop. They get so many less phone calls. So a lot of them, they buy, so they have extra ones there. And then as they fail, if they need repairs, they just, they'll just send them in, as is needed. And then, but the other thing I didn't mention is that we had that new handle that you have in your video. I had a wider one for a while, a 2-inch, but I went to the 1-inch because some guys the little twist lock part we have to do something to try and make it so it's not too loose. It comes out of the, from the manufacturer, it's really loose. So we put a little gasket underneath it that sort of helps. But if that does become loose again, that little 1-inch strap goes around. It'll actually lock the tab on that thing, whether it's open or not. So it's just sort of a backup. So that way your head doesn't fall away from your battery while you're vacuuming ever. So it's just one more little backup on those handles. And then, I think I'm going to use the same thing when you have the power supply with the cable, it's just going to have one of those handles wrapped around the power supply and the cable. So, and it'll be relatively light, maybe 4 pounds, so it's something else you can carry in your hand. So if you have your backpack in your case of your shoulder, holding that with your pole, you can, I'm trying to make everything, because I'm a pool guy. So it's always one trip is what you want to make. If I think I might need to vacuum the pool, I'll bring the vacuum. And then that way, if you don't need it, great. If you just need it for a spot, you have it, and then, but it was always just that going back to the truck, it's that 2 and 4 trips just to get the pool vacuum. That adds 45 minutes plus to pool sometimes, was just too much. That's sort of the average I get. A lot of guys say it's an hour and a half off their day. Guys that have a full day, they say it took an hour and a half off of their pool cleaning day.
We should go into a little bit of details about charging the bottom feeder in your truck. And then we can talk a little bit about the thrust ring. That's kind of a mystery to people when they get the bottom feeder.
Yeah. So we'll start with the thruster ring. So that was just, I realized that we could vacuum shallower if we had something closer to the propeller. Same idea as the old, for those of us that were back in the day with the brass impeller with the open face, you had to get it as close as possible to the parties on the thing in front of it, the diffuser or whatever it is, to make sure that you got maximum suction right out of it. So that's the same idea. So when you're putting the thruster ring in, you make sure it it goes in that it doesn't touch the propeller, but you get it as close to that propeller, spin it with your finger as you can without it touching, and then then that'll give you the most lift. You'll have the most head basically out of it, and that works well if you're vacuuming. And you can even go down to, I've done less than 3 inches. I think there was a set that was down to like 2.5 inches on Mission Impossible, and I was able to actually vacuum those spots. And or if you're using the cartridge assembly, it helps you so that way it doesn't plug up that cartridge filter as fast. You get more runtime, and you can bury more dirt in the pleats.
Yeah, so we can charge this thing in the truck as you're driving around.
Yeah, so all you need is I think technically you get away with a 300 watt inverter, but I always say a 400 watt. You want to get a sine or modified sine. I think they call it sine wave inverter. I haven't tried it without one, but those just make cleaner voltage for any electronics. Those I know work. You can get them cheap at a Home Depot or Harbor Freight or Amazon. You can get them as cheap as $40. And then if you have that in your truck, you can plug it in. If you look at your video, if you guys watch your video, you have a little plastic tub on your passenger seat. Put it in there. You can plug it in between, and then 10 minutes of charging gets you 7 minutes of runtime. So if you're charging it throughout your day, then you can actually extend your day by a pool or two, depending on your drive times and stuff.
So there's several bags available for the bottom feeder. You have the medium bag and you have a small bag in 100 micron and a 57 micron. Let's talk a little bit about the bags and
so I went with that when I first invented the bottom feeder. I was like, there's so many different bag manufacturers out there. I'm just not going to get into inventing a bag, and then the first ones I tried, I went through a lot of them, and they were quite terrible. So I got into making bags for a bit, but the locking mechanisms were always a trick and stuff. And then so a guy who actually used to buy bottom feeders, he had a small pool company, and he was a big fan of the bottom feeder, wanted to get into doing bag stuff. So I said, absolutely, go for it. Hooked him up with my supplier on the stuff, and he started going down the thing, for a minute there, it was a little upsetting because he was copying our buddy at Mako Bags, and so it was a little hard. And so I don't know if it was pressure from me or anything, but he finally changed the mechanism, everything, and went to a little bungee cord on there that does it. But the problem with the bungee cord is when you're tightening it, it has a big long length that can actually get sucked in the propeller. So just when guys are tightening that up, just do a loop or two, like a loose half hitch or two, and then that'll keep it out of there. But I'm happy with the closure. It actually does fit quite tightly and the like. And at some point here, when I get, everything's, running smooth, I might go back in because I have some ideas that are quite novel for vac bags that I just haven't been able to spend time on to get, actually a larger amount of square footage in just with some design things in a smaller bag just to get more run life. But that's probably a year or two down the road before I ever get on that one.
A lot of guys here are fans of the 57 micron bag because that picks up a lot of the finer dirt in my area. And it doesn't blow off the top because you have an 18-pound thrust motor versus, and it doesn't blow up with air either. So
yeah, exactly. But sometimes you'll when you first put it in, if you notice, it'll sink. It'll feel no air in it at all. And sometimes it's good to have a little air bubble in it. So I'll pull it back up and let a little air in the top. Just to float it up. But the 57, so how that works is the threads the smaller the opening you want, that 57 micron is it gets tight. I couldn't go any smaller and have anything out. But the other problem is the bag gets a little more easy to tear at that. So you just got to be a little more careful with it. If it does tear, I don't know if you've done the thing where you just twist up around the whole the bag and then put a little small zip tie on it. Or just any, crazy glue works too. If you fold it on itself, do a little crazy glue. There's some quick hits you can do just to sort of extend the life of the bag. And then guys have talked about double bagging and all this stuff. And I've got various theories on that. But I've always went away from it in the end. Just if you have one good bag that just sort of works. But I like the 57. We also make a large one. So it's basically 20, 30, and 40 inches long is our three sizes. Seems to work well enough. I don't know if I'm going to redesign for the shrimp if I need to make it smaller, because the difference with the shrimp also is instead of a 6-inch throat, we have a 5-inch throat on it. So it's a smaller one. The regular bag will work, it'll go down to there, but I don't know if for fitment, if I'm going to change anything up. So that'll be to be determined.
Yeah, I'm excited to get my hands on one of those shrimps. It sounds exciting, and it's something that you've been working on probably for the last 3 or 4 years, if I
Yeah, I've
remember.
had the idea for I think my first time I had them make up a head was probably 5 years ago. The guy who used to be the city manager for Henderson here. He was my brother's brother-in-law. So they've had a shrimp for many years. His wife has been able to use, just one of my first just playing around prototypes. They've let it, but I'm getting in, my first, I just did a couple tweaks just to make sure. So now the idea with the shrimp is you want to make sure it vacuums on every step. So I just move the wheels in a little closer so you have a little better balance on the step when you're vacuuming the sides. So that way it'll fit on pretty much any pool step you have. It'll be easy for just going a sideways back on it, or just going straight ahead, front and back, And so I'm just waiting for that to come in today, and then you will be one of the first beta testers for the new head design, David.
Yeah, great. I think we covered everything here about the bottom feeder, the new things you've implemented. And I always tell the service guys, when you get one of these things, of course, the vacuum systems on the back of your truck, they're nice to have, and they're optically good for business to have that. But there's so many guys with the bottom feeder in the back seat out there that just love the bottom feeder, and 90% of the pools are using it on, and maybe they're using the Riptide on 10% now when they have it. So I think it's definitely something to try out, and you'll see the convenience factor that we're talking about here.
As a pool guy, my first love is for pool guys. So all you guys that have got angry about us for things being late and stuff, I'm very sorry, but I'm constantly trying to do it, and it does make me lose sleep. If you want to think that your bad emails, punish me, they do. Because I love pool guys. I love this gig. It's awesome. And I still haven't got them to put that in the credits on a movie yet. Pool guy. they were supposed to do it on mission. They made up something like, I can't remember, supervising tank filtration engineer. And like, I didn't have to go to 4-year school, and I don't have a pinky ring, but somehow I'm an engineer now. So be a pool guy. You could be an engineer one day.
Well, thanks, Glenn, for taking the time to go over the new stuff, and to extend your apologies to the pool guys and gals out there.
All right. Well, thank you, David. It's always great talking to you. We've known each other a lot of years now, and I'm happy to be a sponsor on your show too.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
If you were around when I started, my life would have been a lot easier. I remember going to bookstores trying to buy books on pools when I was first starting this stuff, but it was a mystery,
Yeah.
So thank you for what you do for our industry, David. You're a good man.
Thank you. And I do have a discount code for the bottom feeder. If you go to my website, swimmingprolearning.com, you'll see a banner with the bottom feeder on it. You'll see the discount code there. You'll save $100 on the bottom feeder when you order it, and you can order it directly from their site. If you're looking for part 1, you can again find this on my YouTube channel every Monday through Friday. If you subscribe, I post a new podcast there. Or go to my website, swimmingprolearning.com, and click on the podcast icon at the top. That'll take you to the podcast website where you can listen to part 1. And if you're interested in the coaching program that I offer, you can learn more at poolguycoaching.com. Thanks for listening to this podcast. Have a great rest of your week. God bless. This episode is brought to you by HASA, providing products that deliver clean, healthy water for every aspect of everyday life. The bottom feeder battery-powered vacuum system, portable, powerful, and only weighs 12 pounds. And Skimmer. Get Skimmer, America's #1 pool service software. Podcast listeners can try Skimmer for free at getskimmer.com/poolguy.